Welcome to the UK Travel Planning Podcast. Your host is the founder of the UK Travel Planning website, Tracy Collins. In this podcast, Tracy shares destination guides, travel tips, and itinerary ideas, as well as interviews with a variety of guests who share their knowledge and experience of UK travel to help you plan your perfect UK vacation. Join us as we explore the UK from cosmopolitan cities to quaint villages, from historic castles to beautiful islands, and from the picturesque countryside to seaside towns.
Hi and welcome to episode 52 of the UK Travel Planning Podcast. This week, Doug and I are actually sitting in a hotel in York, England, because Doug has just joined me in York from a 5-day trip to Wales. So I thought it would be a good opportunity in this episode to talk to Doug all about his trip to North Wales. So, Doug, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello. It's great to be on again. I'm so excited. I had a fantastic week in North Wales. Beautiful weather and lovely people. And it's just the week's actually flown by. I've had the most fantastic week.
So this is actually the first podcast episode that we've actually had a chance to talk about Wales. And I thought because Doug's just spent 5 days there, exploring it, trying out lots of public transport and trying out lots of the trains and exploring it. And obviously the logistics of planning it all took some time. So it'd be a good chance to actually, just say, go through what he did, where he went, how he planned it, for those of you who are considering a trip to North Wales in your visit to the UK. So let's start off, I guess. Basically, would you like to give everybody an overview of your trip and where you went and what you did?
Yep. Okay. So first off, I went through our Facebook group and seen where comments or questions have been posted when people have asked questions about the many heritage railway lines in North Wales. So that seemed like a good starting place. So once I'd armed myself with a list, I found myself a map of Wales and found out where all these heritage train lines run. And then naturally what I thought was, where am I going to base myself? So I came to the decision I would stop in Bangor in Gwynedd, that's North Wales. Before going any further, I just need to point out my apologies for any Welsh speakers. My pronunciation is probably very, very poor. And I do apologise, but I'll do my very best.
It's better than mine, that's for sure.
So, yes, So once I armed myself with the services I wanted done, that included the Snowdonia Mountain Railway and the Llangollen Railway and the Festiniog Railway and Welsh Highlands Railway. So once I found where they were and when the services run and whether it should have been diesel or steam, I'll come to that later on. It was a question of finding whether available that day, whether there was still spaces those days, and how they all fit in together. So I wanted to do one area, then to another area, and to another area. So once I found those, it was a question of, well, can I then book them?
Yeah.
And so we completed all that. We did that together. And then I thought, well, we need to find a hotel to stay in. So on this trip, I decided I was going to do it all with public transport, didn't I?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. That was a decision rather than hiring a car, because obviously we just know the sort of questions that we get in the Facebook group. And also we have done itinerary consults with people who have been intending to go to North Wales. And I know some people have asked us before about public transport. And because we do like to look into the use of public transport around the UK, like we did the Lake District last year. We based ourselves in Windermere to see about how you could get around. We felt that it would be a really useful thing to do for you to actually plan your trip using public transport only.
Yeah, that's right. And obviously it's slow because you then got to start looking at bus timetables, and in North Wales I found different bus providers as well.
Yeah.
So it was a question of finding which bus service covers which area. For example, I found the Gwynfor coaches. They provide the bus service to Snowdonia. So you have to find one to Llanberis, which is a little town there, a beautiful town. So, but once I found all the correct buses, then it was a question of finding the bus tickets. And I did find, and I was very impressed. I was telling you about I'm very impressed with Arriva coaches or Arriva buses. They have some very good day passes, bus tickets.
Yeah.
And they were incredibly helpful. The bus drivers are very, very friendly, very helpful. You know, you get off a bus who've never been somewhere before, and you ask them where the bus stop is for the return journey, and it's just over there. I'll point you down there.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed with them.
Can I just rewind? I just want to rewind a bit, actually, because I know you said, so when you were deciding on the places that you wanted to go to, there were the 4 different railway lines that you wanted to do, those kind of heritage railway lines. But also, what about actual destinations, as in places in North Wales that you wanted to go to and see? Because obviously people talk to us about those railway lines, but there are other things to do in North Wales. So I guess they were included in your itinerary planning?
That's right. No visit to North Wales be complete without looking at the castles.
Yeah.
There's such a concentration of castles in North Wales. So I mixed the days up. I also wanted to do one particular tour that appealed to me, 3 castles tour, and is also visiting the Snowdonia National Park for a viewing point.
Yeah.
Which wasn't actually the railway. The viewing point was absolutely spectacular. So I was really privileged to be on this tour as well at the same time. And we also went to Llandudno for the Great Orme, which I'd already done another day. So lots of information there. Let me go through my day, shall I?
Yeah.
So I first arrived into Bangor, and the hotel I'd chosen, or we chose together, was a hotel called the Trax Hotel, TRAXX.
Yeah.
And that was literally across the road from the train station. Okay. And value for money, I was impressed with it. The lady who was running that, a lady by the name of Wendy, there's a few challenges along the way, but she was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I can't thank her for enough how kind she was to me.
Yeah.
You know? So that was perfect for me. And then, believe it or not, the buses I needed to catch, I could also catch some seconds from there. So on that very first day I arrived, I also caught the train from Bangor to a place name. It's the second longest place name in the UK, the second in the world. I'm not going to try and say it, but it is known locally as Llanfair PG. And it's 58 letters long.
Wow.
And it's just an amazing place. So it's a photo opportunity.
And you've got a photo with yourself at the sign. I did notice that. So we'll definitely put that in the show notes so everybody can see you standing at the sign of the second longest
UK place name.
UK place name.
I think there's a place in New Zealand. I think is the longest.
So it's the longest in the UK, but second longest in the world.
That's
right. Wow.
58 letters long.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did it on the first day because that's only 6 minutes on the train from Bangor, which was absolutely fantastic. And that's just across on the Isle of Anglesey.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that was the first day. And then on the second day, I caught the early morning bus from Bangor to Snowdonia.
Yeah.
And I went upon the Snowdonia Mountain Railway on a beautiful, hot, sunny day. And the views are absolutely breathtaking.
So I'll just say this was obviously the beginning of June that Doug did this trip. And the weather in most of the UK has been absolutely fantastic over the last week, but particularly in the West Coast and in Wales was amazing. It was really, really lovely weather, which made it even better because I know the views were spectacular with beautiful blue skies.
It's wall-to-wall views. You don't know where to look. Yeah. And honestly, the photos and videos do not do the place justice.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. Unfortunately, the train, the cog railway doesn't go all the way to the summit at the moment until 24th of June, I believe, because of, I think it was, the work isn't completed from over winter, I think.
Yeah.
So that was a good chunk of the day. And then I was going to catch the bus to a place called Betts Coward. Again, apologies if I say that wrong. And then I was going to join the main train line to Blaenau Festyn, the old train station. But we'd already done that a week before.
Yes.
So I returned by bus to Bangor and then caught the train again to Llandudno. And from there, I caught the tramway to the summit of the Great Orme, which is the headland at Llandudno.
Okay.
And there's such a lot of history involved with that. There's a bronze mine there as well, and it's absolutely fascinating. Now, my plan was to go one way to the summit on the tramway and then return by the cable car.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that afternoon, the wind had increased in speed. So unfortunately, the cable car was not running. So
so they don't run it when it gets too windy, which I guess is like safety issue. Yeah.
So I was forced to come back down on the tram, which was an absolute hardship.
Oh,
it
right.
really was. It was awful. So
that's worth bearing in mind, I guess, if anybody's planning to do that, is that obviously bearing on the weather can impact on whether you can do the cable car. Yeah.
And that was, you can buy a return ticket for that one if that's what you're planning on doing. But it's really nice. It's a very pleasant place. One interesting thing I found about Llandudno, which I didn't know at the time, was the Llandudno was the birthplace of Lewis Carroll.
Oh, right,
the writer of Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
So there's about between 30 and 40 wooden statues there. And there's also locally they're starting a free walking tour.
All right. So what are the statues of?
All the characters from Alice in Wonderland, the rabbit and Alice herself and various places. So that was that first day. Absolutely fantastic day in Snowdonia. And then the second day I went on the tour, and that covered Conway Castle, Carnarvon Castle, but also went again to the Great Orme, and lots of other little places to stay along the way. Absolutely fantastic.
So with that tour, did you go and meet the tour at a particular place? How did that work?
Yeah, we met the tour at just outside the train station at Llandudno, and then I think it was we left about 8:30 in the morning, returned about 5:30.
Okay, and that was I know that was with Adventure Tour Snowdonia. So we will put a link in the show notes to that tour, because I know you absolutely loved it. You were raving about it after that day, just said how excellent it was. Yeah,
and hopefully get back to the young chap. The tour guide was a guy called Freddie, who was absolutely outstanding. His enthusiasm was, his warmth came across to everybody.
Yeah,
it was absolutely marvellous. So, including that was the Conway Castle, Dolbedarn Castle, probably saying that wrong as well, Carnarvon Castle, Plasmauer, which is the Grand Hall in Conway, and the smallest house in Great Britain, which is absolutely amazing. It was a tiny little house, and can you believe it? It was a 6'3" fisherman who used to live in there.
Oh, really? And I've seen the photos of how small it is. It's really tiny. And do you have to pay to get into that?
Yeah, it's £1.50, but that is cash only, that one.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's good to know, yeah.
And so that was a whole day there. And then the following day, I went by train again to Rue-Aben. I think I said that's just outside Wrexham.
Yeah.
And then I caught the bus to Llangollen for the railway service from there. And that's 10:30 till about 12. And it absolutely amazing. Went the full length.
So where does that go to?
So that, I can't remember the name of the place. Corwin, it goes to Corwin. Yeah. It's just open. Special word there for one of the conductor there, a gentleman by the name of Ross, who kindly consented to a little video for myself. You can include that as well.
That was brilliant. And I will include that in the show notes, actually, because he gives Doug a little interview.
He was outstanding. Again, the face of the company, you first thing you walk in, he's welcoming, he was kind, considerate, and again, his energy was just abounding.
Yeah. So good views on that with that train trip?
Yes, it was, because I was going to say this later, I'll say it now. This day and the following day, there was scheduled on the timetable for steam train services, but because of the prolonged hot weather, the risk of line-side fires is quite huge.
Yeah.
And yet on the day before, there had been a little fire, so it was diesel trains running, but in no way did it sort of dampen the experience, and it was that Ross, his enthusiasm was abounding. And so it was 2 heritage diesel units, or DMUs, if you're in the know, and both outward journey and return, I sat just behind the driver. So I've got lots of photos that I did share some on the group as well.
Yeah.
So, but a wonderful day. Everything from start to finish, from walking in Llangollen railway station to leaving, it was an absolute joy, particularly to a trained person like myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, the weather was absolutely perfect, beautiful. Yeah, it really was. So I returned them by bus to Bangor that day, and and then I had a walk around Bangor that night as well, down to the pier, and for some beautiful views of the Menai Strait and the Menai Bridge, and it was really a beautiful evening. But because a lot of those
And that's
towns
over
along
to Anglesey, I should just say.
Yes, that's right. Across to Anglesey, and the little island there called Puffin Island.
All right.
Which you can get boats out to. So that was that day. And then the following day, I had a very long day this day. I caught the bus to Carnarvon for the Festiniog and Welsh Highlands Railway. Again, this should have been a steam train. Timetable was a steam train, but unfortunately it wasn't. And again, a special mention to the conductor on that train, a young lady by the name of Becky, who was, again, such warmth and helpfulness. She walked up and down the train answering questions. Just wonderful. And I also sat next to a family, absolutely very engaging, a lovely family day out. And it was just so friendly. So then after that, I caught the bus back to Carnarvon and, had another quick look round Bangor, and that was that, really.
Yeah. So obviously you've done you did the 4 railways and they were really exciting. You enjoyed all of those. Obviously met some fantastic people on the trains and the staff running the trains. Yes. So that was great. What about, I know you visited some of the castles, so just want to talk about how did you feel about some of the castles that you visited? Do you have a favourite?
I probably prefer Conway Castle because the town has such a lot to offer as well. There's not a lot to choose between Conway and Carnarvon Castle. They're both absolutely fine history and a lot of story to tell on their own. But probably Conway just edged it for me as a town.
Yeah.
I also I have missed that entirely. I went to Anglesey one evening and it was a bit late because the castle was already closed at Beaumaris or Boomeris. I'm not sure the pronunciation of that. That's across on Anglesey itself. And that overlooks basically the Menai Strait and Bangor, Puffin Island. And you could just see, because it was getting a bit hazy, was Llandudno in the distance. But Beaumaris, absolutely lovely little place as well. You can catch ferries across there, Puffin Island, and also boat trips on through the Menai Strait to the bridges and things like that as well. Yeah. And had some most marvellous fish and chips there as well.
I was going to ask you about food. Actually, that was something I was going to ask, because I know that's something we have been asked before about kind of recommended places to eat. So what did you do for food for those days that you were away?
It wasn't exactly the healthiest. I had 2 lots of fish and chips on recommendations.
But the fish and chips were good.
I ate in a couple of cafes as well, but the fish and chips at Beaumaris were absolutely delicious. Now, one place I didn't try, apparently in Llandudno, instead of fish and chips, it's something like chish and fips or something of that nature.
Oh, right, yes.
And that has been recommended as well by the family I was on the train with on the Galate Explorer, that was on the Festiniog and Welsh Highlands Railway. Yeah, so look, some lovely food.
Yeah, and so I know you had bacon sandwiches in the morning before, because I know you
I did put a picture on, didn't I? On Bangor Station, there's a travel cafe there called the Snowdon Cafe, and I had this bacon sandwich and a cup of tea, or cuppa, and it was absolutely delicious. I did put a picture on, didn't I?
Yeah, you did, and I will share those again. So okay, so you've given us a kind of good overall view of kind of how you went and how your days were. How did you find it logistically? Because obviously you planned this with the buses, and how did it work? Yeah,
the buses, I was very impressed with Arriva buses. What I did before I went on the trip was I looked at all the different buses and what were the best tickets, because I did find you can pay by cash or card on the buses. But what I opted to do was buy 2 M tickets, that's mobile tickets, and you activate them on the day that you use them, and then you just scan in the QR code on the bus. But I was relying on Wi-Fi on the buses, so at times I was having to wait until I was on the bus to be able to access the QR code. But the drivers, every driver at Arriva was absolutely outstanding and really helpful.
That's good to know.
And patient as well, to be fair.
Yeah, that's good to know. So have you got any tips that you could give to anybody that would consider in this trip?
I would. Firstly, after I've written this up as a post on the website, I use that as a good guide. But I would point out that the railways themselves do take up a big chunk of the day, and you've got logistics to get there. And I did see some of the car parks get quite full. So if you are driving, you've got to allow yourself plenty of time to park your car.
Right, that's goodness.
Some of them were not all card or cash, bit of mixture. But there's one, I think it was at Snowdon, and it was card only.
Oh, okay,
phone,
okay.
But yeah, another thing is, if the train departs, say at 10:30, on a couple of them you had to arrive 30 minutes before to collect your tickets. Even if you've bought online, you've got to go and present it 30 minutes before the train departs. It's just for logistics to get everybody on board.
Oh, okay, so they know. So, when it comes to actually, do these sell out? So you can't just turn up on the day, you have to book ahead?
Some you do. The Snowdon Railway one, there's only a small 1 or 2 coach long. So you have specific seats booked on there as well. So they do get booked up. I was on the first one, and the first one of the day, and it was full.
Yeah.
There's no standing room allowed because they have to have a clear view.
Right.
As it climbs.
Oh, yeah.
And descent, yeah. But no, the ticket only. I think there was on the Llangollen, I think there was some tickets available.
Oh, okay, so that's good to know.
And the other thing, I would always arrive as much time as you can, particularly if it is a steam train or you want to take photos of the coaches or the locos.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth it.
So is there any other tips that you could share that with anybody that's considering, as I say, this sort of trip to North Wales?
I would definitely do the a tour as well. Public transport works, but it pays to do your homework first and be sure and clear which buses you want to catch. Because I did find, and I did talk to this on another couple in on Anglesey, that some of the online bus times don't always marry with the bus stop times. Because there's electronic displays and some paper and some printed timetables, but they don't always marry up.
Right.
So I was looking about it, but I was always arriving sort of 10 minutes before buses just to be doubly sure I was going to catch them.
Yeah.
Particularly on the Sunday when there was obviously going to be less buses travelling.
Okay, no, that sounds good.
On the Aviva buses, also very good onboard Wi-Fi.
Okay, so that's good to know, so that people can use that as well.
Yeah.
So I think obviously you're going to write up your itinerary from the last week. So this, your entire itinerary, including the bus times that you took, the trains that you took, will actually be available in a blog post on the website. I'm not sure if it'll be ready by the time this podcast episode gets out, but Doug will be working on it, and as soon as it's sorted, you will work on that. So have you got any kind of final tip that you'd share with our listeners?
I would say public transport is doable, but shop around for the best deals with the bus tickets and be sure of what you're paying, because I did find that there's also the bus tickets called a one bus ticket, and that covers a lot of all the different operators in Wales.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know about that. I did not read about it anywhere, but that was one of the drivers that told me that. So it pays to shop around and make sure you get the right bus tickets.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for chatting to us this week about your trip to Wales. Obviously, it's the first time I've seen you for 5 days since we were in Edinburgh, so it's good to chat with you about what you've been up to in Wales for the last few days as well.
I've got so much I need to say about it. I'm sorry it's a bit disjointed, everybody listening to that. There's just so much I want to say about it.
Well, obviously, if anybody's got questions that they want to ask Doug about his trip around Wales, please join the Facebook group, and you can come in there and ask Doug questions about the logistics, about what he enjoyed about this trip. But as I say, this is going to be written up as a blog post, and it will be available on the website. Yep.
The one thing I will find, a few times I had to be a little bit more flexible with my times and buses and keep checking and that sort of thing. So it's about flexibility with the itinerary. So I'm always happy to talk to anybody about trains, and particularly North Wales. And finally, thank you everybody I came into contact with during my trip in North Wales. Everybody was so friendly and helpful. Thank you. That's
great. That's great to know. So you can find all the everywhere that Doug visited and more information, obviously a link to the upcoming post about his trip to Wales on the website at uktravelplanning.com/episode 52. But all that leaves us to say for this week is, as always, happy UK travel planning.
Thank you.